Welcome to InnerGLOW, the podcast that helps you to ditch anxiety, judgment, stress, and self-doubt, and instead embody ease, confidence, flow, abundance, and self-love. I'm your host, Bhavna Meg, mindset and energy coach, and founder of Stepping Into You. I work with individuals just like you on emotional, mental, and energetic levels to help you to fall in love with yourself and glow from the inside out. This is episode 13. Today we're going to talk about sex and explore a little bit of the taboo and shame that has existed around sex, and particularly for me growing up with a lot of Bollywood movies where even kissing on scene was incredibly taboo. And we're going to explore what this taboo and shame and the impact of silence has on our relationship with this incredibly natural act. As always, listen to the end to learn a great tip to start building or enhancing your relationship with all that is sex. And if you want to accelerate your journey, book a free discovery call with me and move any stress, stuck, shame, or judgy energy quickly and free yourself to enjoy sex in the way that you're supposed to. I grew up with a lot of Bollywood movies, and in those Bollywood movies, it was really quite taboo to have any of the leads or any of the characters actually kiss on scene. There was sometimes alluding to kissing, but it never was actually shown. However, in contrast, there were often scenes during the singing parts of the movies where the male and female leads might be dancing and singing in the rain, and the male lead would be touching all parts of the female body in a very erotic way, which made it very confusing, to be fair. Why is kissing not allowed? And he's able to rub his head up on her neck, her chest, her belly, and it was quite weird and very contradictory. I watched a lot of these movies with my parents, and my uncomfortable level around seeing even scenes like that was way up in the millions with my parents. Sex was something that was never discussed in my family, and I'm pretty sure in my extended family with my relatives as well. We didn't talk about what it is, why we do it, how to be safe with sex. It was assumed or felt that sex was only to be an act to be performed after marriage. It felt like there was a lot of shame around it. Now, this isn't just in my culture, but there's a lot of shame associated with sex and women from generations in the Western world and in the Eastern worlds. And this is stored, this information, this shame is stored in our cellular memory and through our ancestral line. What do I mean by that? I mean that information, that energy is passed down the ancestral line. We're not saying that it's genetic. That's a whole different conversation in itself. We're saying that as your parent, your mother felt shame around sex and had stored that in her body, she equally passed that information, that energy, that frequency down to you in utero, and likely through your growing up. There would have been conversations or remarks or energetic pulses being received by you from your parents as to any kind of acts that was not seen as okay or right or ladylike. As we get older, these beliefs and these patterns, as they're memorized into our cellular body, we continue to reinforce them. We find things in our environment that allows us to prove these things to be true. We might see things in the news. We might find ourselves talking about other women and how loose they are, or using words like slut and slag and name calling, and using these terms that are derogatory to them as we're talking about them, but really to ourselves, because ultimately all of the words that we are expressing and using as judgment on others is very much about how we feel about ourselves, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. So we continue this pattern of reinforcing our internal beliefs and energy frequency through this process of finding and seeking out what we believe to be our reality. And as a result of that, causing ourselves even more heaviness. When truly what we wish to have is balance, is lightness, is comfort, is pleasure, is safety around sex and sexuality. The work that I've done with myself in this space has been transformative, and using stress release processes, using meditation, using belief statements and programming these into the subconscious around what sexuality looks like when it's healthy and balanced and how I want to be. And of course, releasing this stress and releasing fears, shame, judgment out of the cellular memory through stress transformation processes and through meditation has been incredibly powerful. Now, a lot of this shame, judgment, and fear, self-talk has been through my learning and my upbringing. One of my experiences when on a meditation retreat I had dropped into and recalled the energy of a traumatic experience, and I couldn't quite define or articulate what it was and when it was, but the energy was very much there. And my body in the meditation started to shake and flop around quite violently. If you were looking at me as a bystander, it may have looked like I was having an epileptic fit, but there was this really, really dense energy that was moving and trying to get out of my body. What happened during that process was a lot of fear was coming back. So the fear was really creating a resistance and releasing this energy. And I was finding that it was creating more pain in my physical body, trying to suppress it. But I was so self-conscious. I was so self-aware of what people might be thinking and seeing as the energy was coming up as much as my body was shaking. Through the process, I knew that I had to surrender to the release. I had to let go of the control. I had to stop myself from pushing it down and just allow the energy to come up. I had to let go of the shame and the self-judgment of what other people might say about me, witnessing that experience happening to me. And I did, and I just let go. I allowed myself and kept on telling myself in my mind, I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. And it was an incredible experience. I felt a huge, huge shift. It left me feeling empty is the only word that comes to mind right now. This space that could now be filled with something so much more loving and nurturing and caring. And this is the power that we have for ourselves. This is the power that we have within ourselves to move beyond what limits us. Before we continue with the next part of the show, if what I've shared with you today is resonating with you, leave a review. It goes a long way to help share the love with others who are going through the same things and would benefit from the tips and tools to turn on their inner glow. Another way to share the love is by making a donation at patreon.com/steppingintoyou to share your love with me and with others. Shame, judgment, criticism of sex and women and sex can manifest into the physical reality in lots of different ways. One example from when I was at school, I went to a girls' school, and there was often judgment around other girls who had a boyfriend and stories being made up over what it is that they've done physically or what they haven't done. Other examples of how this might manifest into reality, things like overindulging, addictions to sex to help to suppress those emotions and feelings, not being able to have sex in a pleasurable and connected way. There may be pain involved, or you may experience other types of dis-ease in your sexual organs and around that part of your body. You may experience menstrual problems. So if you're having really heavy periods or clotted periods or painful periods, this can be an indication that there's energy that is stuck, that is not in balance and in alignment with your highest and greatest good. And some of these emotions include the shame, the guilt, and the self-judgment of the act of sex and sexuality. But by far the most telling about the type of emotions that we're holding about anything in our inner world is the expression of them. So as girls were doing so in my high school and gossiping and bitching about other girls who were in relationships and the goings on of those relationships, so too, even as adults, what we are saying and expressing about other people, the judgments that we are making about other women, are the things that we are inherently feeling and judging about ourselves. And these are areas that we can start to create some release in so that we can come back into more balance. Holding this tension, dis-ease, discomfort, this stuck energy in that area of your body, in those lower energy centers, limits the amount of flow that we can experience into our heart center and further up into our higher centers. And this truly limits our ability to experience spiritual growth because we haven't been able to let go of or heal this trauma that we're holding within our physical and cellular memory. What can we do and how can we start to have a better relationships with ourselves and our own sexuality? Today, I'm going to share some questions with you for you to reflect on. As you already know, awareness is key to create change and growth, and reflective questions can allow us to explore them. Now, as I've explained in previous episodes, the idea with questions and reflective questions is not to analyze and try and find the answer. It's simply to ask them and allow that information to come up into our awareness. So grab a pen and paper and write these down or do a little save on this episode so that you can come back to these as you need to reflect and deepen the healing and the release that you have around your sexuality. How do you define creativity? Do you follow through on your creative ideas? Are you comfortable with your sexuality? Do you use people for sexual pleasure? Or have you felt used? Do you honor your sexual boundaries? Are you a controlling person? And do you engage in power plays? Now, there's many more questions that we can absolutely explore around the specific energy that you are holding yourself. And I'm going to share with you an extra little treat on how you can start to balance and create more harmony in this particular area and with that particular energy center or chakra. Having a hot aromatic bath is a really self-nurturing way to soothe yourself, as is having a therapeutic massage. You can also use essential oils like jasmine, sweet orange, sandalwood, or rose. They're all really great for helping to promote self-love, balancing the sacral chakra, and creating more harmony within yourself. And surrounding yourself with the color orange. So this particular chakra, the sacral chakra, is orange, and having more orange in your environment or wearing the color orange can help to bring more balance to that energy center and help to support with your healing process. As I mentioned at the beginning, feel free to book a discovery call with me through the website to really speed up the process of releasing these energies so you can be in more flow and enjoy and be in balance with your sexuality and the act of sex. That's all for today. Let me know how you get on with those questions and join me next week for episode 14, where we'll talk about fear and love. Thanks for joining me today, and be sure to subscribe at steppingintoyou.com/InnerGLOW so you don't miss any glowing possibilities. And if you'd love to support InnerGLOW, you can make a donation at patreon.com/InnerGLOW. Sending you love, hugs, and magic.